There's a new player on the AI scene, and it's making some serious noise. So much so that people are calling it another DeepSeek moment. The name is Kimi. But before we dive in, we've got to get something straight. So you hear the name Kimi, and you might be thinking of the legendary, famously straight-talking Formula One driver, and yeah, this is a real quote from him after, believe it or not, he crashed into his own teammate because he was fiddling with his steering wheel. A total classic Kimi moment for sure. But it has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about today.
Nope, not that Kimi. We are talking about a totally different Kimi, an AI model that is sending shockwaves through the entire tech industry.
Say hello to Kimi K2. It's an open-weight model coming out of Moonshot AI, and it's turning heads because of its performance, its design, and the fact that pretty much anyone can get their hands on it. So just how big of a deal is this new contender, really?
Well, for starters, it is an absolute monster. It's packing over 1 trillion total parameters. And in the world of AI, that number is a huge indicator of just how powerful and complex a model can be. But, size isn't everything. The real magic is in how it works.
All right, let's pop the hood and see what's going on inside. Because Kimi K2 isn't just big for the sake of being big. Its design is actually incredibly clever, using some really cool innovations to push the limits of what these models are capable of.
The whole thing is built on what the team calls 3 key pillars. First, you've got this super efficient architecture. Second, a totally new way of learning that goes beyond just reading text. And third, a game-changing optimizer that solves one of the biggest headaches in AI training. Let's break them down.
First up is its architecture, which is called a mixture of experts, or MO for short. Now, instead of having one single giant brain trying to do everything at once, an MOO model has, like, a manager. And this manager's job is to look at your request and send it to the perfect specialist for the job. Kimi K2 uses 384 of these little experts, which makes it incredibly efficient.
Second, there's this idea of agentic intelligence. You see, most AI models just learn from a fixed pile of text they're given. Kimi actually learns from its own actions by interacting with tools and playing around in simulated environments. Think of how AlphaGo taught itself to become the world's best Go player. Kimi learns by doing, which lets it grow way beyond its original training. And finally, we get to the secret sauce, the MuonClip optimizer. See, training these huge AI models is famously tricky. They often suffer from these things called loss spikes, where the training just goes completely off the rails. Well, Moonshot AI's new optimizer pretty much solves this. They were able to train this massive model with, and I'm quoting here, 0 loss spikes. That is a massive deal for the entire industry.
Okay, so the tech sounds incredible, right? But the real proof is in the pudding. Talk is cheap. Let's see how Kimi actually stacks up against the reigning champions, like GPT-4 and Claude Opus.
This is the question on everybody's mind. A fancy architecture is one thing, but can it actually deliver the goods? Well, the data that the team published is, well, it's pretty staggering. Let's start with SweBench. This thing tests an AI's ability to solve real-world coding problems from GitHub. And look at this. Kimi K2 doesn't just beat GPT 4.1, it demolishes it by more than 11 points. That is a huge margin, and it's not a fluke. It's the exact same story on Live CodeBench, which uses problems from competitive programming websites. Once again, Kimi K2 is right there at the top, leaving both Claude Opus and GPT 4.1 in the dust.
And just to prove it's not just a coding one-trick pony, here's a look at Amy, which is a competition-level math benchmark. And what do you know? Kimi K2 again outperforms its rivals, showing that it has some serious chops when it comes to complex logical reasoning too.
So what we have here is a top-of-the-charts open-weight model that you can download for free. I mean, that sounds almost too good to be true, right? And as you can imagine, it's kicked off some really intense debates online about the real-world trade-offs.
On one side of the argument, you've got the total optimists. As one person on Reddit put it, open source is the future of AI. They see this as a huge step towards democratizing technology and breaking away from the grip of a few big companies.
But then, of course, you have the skeptics. Another user immediately shot back with this little reality check, pointing out the very real barrier to entry, the insane amount of hardware you'd need to actually run a model this massive. So which is it?
Well, the truth is, it really depends on who you are.
If you're a developer using it in the cloud, it's an unbelievable bargain. We're talking something like 100 times cheaper than Claude Opus. But if you want to run it on your own machine for privacy or research, you're going to need some seriously beefy hardware, like a server with half a terabyte of RAM. It's doable, but it's not something your average gaming PC is going to handle.
And this hardware question feeds directly into a really complicated debate about privacy. With a lot of US models, your data lives on corporate servers, and there's often mandatory data logging. Now, with a model like Kimi, you have the option to run it locally, giving you total privacy. But if you use the online version, then the concern flips to your data potentially going to servers in China. It's a really complex set of trade-offs for the user.
But stepping away from all the debate for a second, what does it actually feel like to use? I think this software engineer Zinja Zhou said it perfectly. When I'm using Kimi K2 with Claude Code, it's like there's a different soul in Claude Code's body. That really captures the feeling of working with a new kind of intelligence that's just different.
So, let's zoom out. What does the arrival of these super high-performing open-weight models like Kimi K2 and DeepSeek actually mean for the future of AI? This is bigger than just one model or one company.
What we're really seeing is a clash of two totally different philosophies. On one side, you have the centralized, proprietary, walled garden approach. Think companies like OpenAI. Development is secret, and access is a product you buy. On the other side, you have this decentralized, open-source world where models are shared with the public, sparking competition and innovation all over the globe.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, the rise of models like Kimi means we're likely to see more innovation thanks to global competition. It can mean lower prices as these giants battle it out. And it definitely means you have more choice. But it also brings these rising geopolitical tensions around AI right to the forefront.
And that leaves us with the million-dollar question. Kimi K2 isn't just a piece of technology. It's an event. It forces us all to ask, what kind of future are we actually building for AI? Is it going to be one of open, global collaboration? Or are we heading for a high-stakes race between heavily fortified, competing walled gardens?